Hello guys, Dejan here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video I want to do something a little different than I was doing the previous past times. Since I recently got a booster pack for the Yu Jing, I got this extra Hsein Warrior, and I already, as you can see, painted one a long time ago when I started painting Infinity models. So this model was painted like almost 2 years ago. So what I want to do now is I want to do the comparison. I want to paint this one is better as I can to my best possibilities, and then I can compare did I improve for these past 2 years or I didn't, or I'm still suck at painting. So let's see. As you can see, this one I even glued the hand on this one in the wrong angle. It is supposed to be like this. And as you can see, a lot of contrast paints here, little blending, metallic paints used for the metals, a lot of mess everywhere. So let's see what can I do here. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's do this. First thing that I'm going to do is to prime the model black. So for this I'm going to use a black primer, and I'm just going to around in the few very thin coats until I have a good and even coverage all around. Then I'm going to pick up a little of the white, and I'm going to do a zenithal highlight from the top, just to make a distinct between the details, so it will be easier for me later to identify the details. And I will also use this to make little highlights on the cloak, which later I'm going to use it for my shades and the highlights when I start painting his cloak. I made a very thin glaze of heavy black green and the Periscopes. I mixed this like a 50-50% mix, and then I add like 6-7 drops of water on my wet palette. As you can see, this paint is now super thin, so when I'm applying it over my zenithal highlight, you can see that I'm still keeping the shadows and highlights that are previously made by the airbrush or the spray can, whatever it's easier for you. So I'm just going to cover his cloak with one very thin coat of this glaze that I made. Then I'm going to add a little of sunny skin tone just to create a little highlight, actually a little brighter color. So I'm still going to use a glazing, so this mix is still full of water, so I'm just going to glaze it over the most raised areas of his cloak. Now I'm going to create the same mix as before, but I'm not going to use that much water because now I want my paint to be a little thicker, and I will add a little more sunny skin tone so that I have a little brighter color than in the previous mix, and I'm going to highlight only the folds and the edge areas of the cloak. So I'm going to go around the whole miniature and do these little highlights. Now I'm going to move on to start doing another part of the cloak, and this is going to be the white straps around it. So for this, first I'm going to base it using the pale blue. Actually, I'm going to use this paint straight from my wet palette by adding only 1 drop of water to it, so it actually have a much better flow from my brush. So I'm going to go around and very carefully paint these stripes, because I don't want to do any mistakes here by painting the cloak or painting the parts that are still not painted, because it will be quite difficult to do the repairs on the cloak because of the way that we actually done it with the glazes. And since I'm painting this mostly over the black or dark gray, I applied this in two very thin coats so that I had a really nice tone of this pale blue. Now it's time to do some shadows, so I'm going to mix 50-50 black with the Periscopes, and then I'm going to pick up one of my smallest brushes and I'm going to paint inside the recesses. So this will actually create the shadows and will make a really nice separation between the parts, like these white straps from the cloak. Since we are done with the shadows, now it's time to focus on the highlights. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little of the white to the pale blue. And I'm going to start highlighting these white straps. So at this stage I'm going to be focused mostly on the flat surfaces that are at the top. I will try to avoid all the recesses and all the areas that are under. And then for the final step of this highlight, I'm going to use a pure white and I'm just going to do the edge highlight of the straps or add a little lines under, like those folds that he have on his chest. Now I'm going to paint the signature Yu Jing armor. I will start with applying orange brown as my base color to the armor. It is quite difficult for some people to paint orange and yellow tones, but I will show you now how it is actually not that difficult at all. So first I'm going to apply this paint in 3 very thin coats so that I have a good and even coverage, so that you won't able actually to see any black from under it. But even if you see a little of the black, it's not that a big deal because we are going to paint it with another coat on top of it. Now I'm going to pick up a Scrofulous brown, but this time I will add a little more water than usual. So this consistency of this paint will be more something between the glaze and the normal paint that we usually do. And then I'm going to start painting with this like a flat armor panels, but I'll be focused on the raised areas of these panels, so the ones that are mostly exposed to the light that's coming from above, but the ones that are from under or below, I will try to leave them with the previous color, or I will just go with the one very thin coat over it. But on the most of the areas I will go with the 2, and some areas that are mostly raised I will do with the 3 very thin coats. Now we are going to start applying highlights. I'm going to use a dead white for this, because dead white is the airbrush color, so it's very diluted, so it's quite easy to mix it with the Scrofulous brown. So I'm going to add like a little, like maybe only 20% for it for my first highlights, and I'm start to focus on the areas that are mostly exposed to the light that's coming from above. So this is going to be the corners and the mid areas of the armor panels, and I'm going to start applying these little highlights. So I'm going to wait for it to dry completely, and then I'm going to add a little more on the areas that I feel that need more light. And then for the final highlight, I'm going to take a pure white
and I'm just going to draw a little dots or a little lines as my final reflection points on the armor. On some armor panels that have really sharp edges, you can do a little edge highlights, but on the most of the flat areas you will do little dots and little lines in the corner. This is just a very little highlight, but it will make this armor look good. Now I'm going to move on to start doing one of my last highlights, and that's actually highlighting the black parts. So for this I'm going to mix white with black, just to creating a little lighter gray color, and I'm going to do edge highlight on most of the sharp edges of these armor panels. So this is going to be a very little highlight, but focused on the most of the sharp edges that this model have. And for the final highlight, I'm going to use pure white. This time I'm going to trace every single sharp edge on the model, and I'm going to draw a thinner lines than I did in the previous step. So at this stage you will have black under it with the medium light gray, and then the white at the top as your brightest point. So just try to use the side of your brush as much as is possible and go around and trace all these edges on your model. For all the LEDs on the helmet, I will paint them first white, and then I will go with the Escorpena green on top of it, and this will be enough to make them look like they are glowing. And then after that I painted the sword, but I forget to press record on my camera, so I owe you that one, guys. This will be all for now. I hope you like this video. Just tell me in the comment section below what you think about this, and if you like the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It will mean a lot to me. And you have any other comments or suggestions, please leave them in the section down below, and I will try to do my best to answer. This will be all for now, guys. Stay safe, take care, and see you soon. Bye bye.